ambition.
That's good. That's a good one.
Okay. So when it comes to acknowledging who's responsible, at some point, even if you grew up a certain way and your mama wasn't there, your daddy wasn't there, that creates a situation in which I'm understanding what our brother says, but we're still in a consumerism mindset.
Poor man's mentality.
And we're doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
We buy the Jordan. See, when I was in China last year, I took my daughter to China. We buy the Jordans and we'll stand in line every week to get the new Jordans. Now, every week it can't be the oppressor's fault why we spending money on shoes.
Check it out. If you're
hold on a second though. Okay, at some point we gotta say that this is just what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if you don't have your goals and you don't have that person who's in your life, I think we can do better as a community. But that one in the mirror, that's who I'm telling the truth or the lie to. So what I'm saying is I'm not suggesting that there isn't a history of how we do it. We got to overcome certain things. But what I'm saying is there is so much evidence of people who have done it that we don't have to get stuck on it anymore. Okay? We got to say, look, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. And I am where I am because of my own best thinking.
Mm-hmm. Say that again.
Okay? I am where I am because of my own best thinking. So at some point, the empowerment doesn't start externally. It starts internally. It's not a group effort. It's really that one in the mirror decides. The suffix CIDE means to put to death. Okay? Homicide, suicide, pesticide. When I decide, what I do is I put to death all other options.
Yep.
So when Mike said earlier, the conditioning has been conditioned. That's true, but now the oppressor doesn't have to do that anymore. When you see somebody who's on social, you know what I'm saying, Section 8, grandmama own it, mama
Whole family,
baby own it.
generational.
At some point, nobody is saying that's what you got to do anymore. We got to stand up. Okay, so I'm not trying to dispute it because I get it. I'm black. Okay, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I do think that the conditioning we have now, we participate in that because we create the culture that says if you don't have this on, you ain't even important no more. We don't talk about it like that. So that's what I think. To the point that your original question was, the biggest mistake is that we don't tell money what to do, and we're allowing money to leave us without even asking where it's going. Okay, so we got to be able to direct it a little bit better. So go ahead, brother.
I love it. It's healthy debate. I love it.
You know, ultimately, I feel like you pretty much said everything I had already said as well, just from a different angle. You know, and not even a different angle. I just think in different wording. I think you said the same thing I said. I said that we're responsible for our getting out of this hole that we've been put into. If someone comes and breaks your leg, it's up to you to heal your leg, but they still broke it. I mean,
I see what you're saying. Acknowledge that systematically we have been financially oppressed.
Absolutely.
Yes. How do you now build your way out of that oppression?
And what I would say is, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, so I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, our grandmamas and great grandmamas and, our people who came over here, they weren't taught about anything from financial literacy because they didn't want them to be taught, because they knew if they knew, then they would be the ones who would be controlling things. So, you control people by two things, by money, by religion, right? And so at the end of the day, you keep things from them because you don't want them to overtake you.
Right.
So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and let me add something to that. When you condition something for so many years, you don't have to keep conditioning it. It's conditioned.
It's conditioned. Yeah.
It's in that space. You can let it. It's almost like rolling a bowling ball. You roll it down there, it's going to roll the direction that you let it roll. So when we speak about men and women buying Jordans, ever so often, every week, it's not a light switch, right? We can't just have a sit down with someone who keeps buying the same Jordans that keep coming out. You can't just have a conversation like, hey, man, this is foolish. They've been conditioned.
Exactly. And it's
hard.
What I mean?
That's like when we wake up
if I could just step in there, I think you can have that conversation.
You can have it,
because God created us with knowledge and wisdom. and he also creates folks to come and deliver information. So I believe that everyone is teachable because he made us. So again, it's up to them to decide. But I think it is very possible to speak into someone's life and give them information that they didn't have.
I don't think I'm saying that you can't. So I'm definitely not saying that someone who does partake in buying the same Jordans every week is not someone that you can talk to.
He says it's not going to change overnight.
It's not. I said we're not light switches.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just like some of us are probably me. I'm always on my phone. So if you came and said, I know the phone's bad for me, right? Like my eyes. So if you came to me today and said, Mike, you need to quit using your phone. Your eyes are going to be messed up. Tomorrow, I'm not going to just stop using my phone.
Yeah,
you're not going to, you know what I mean? So it's conditioning conditioning is a very aggressive behavior. And so, we don't have to keep going back and forth about it. You know what I mean? I think, like I said, once again, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I think it's just added information. We're adding information on top of information versus saying, hey.
But that is a huge point.
It's a balance of those two thoughts I think that we're talking about. It's a balance of the two thoughts that are very important in progressing the effort.
That conditioning piece, because you started off with saying we have to transform our mind. That conditioning piece is huge. That, to me, I feel like that is the number one reason why people make the money mistakes that they make
100%.
Because they have been so conditioned to do this with their money, do that. If you take somebody who, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth either. I know I grew up in poverty, and so I didn't see people doing their money right. I saw my aunts making do with what they had to make do with. Nobody sat me down and said, "This is what it looks like to have a budget. This is what it looks like to open a checking account at a young age and start saving money, or give me a debit card at a responsible, at a young age, and say, this is how you responsibly use that." And it's either we're even talking about conditioning, because probably last week I was thinking, as I look at my own financial situation, I was just thinking about, it's like, you know what? I just never really was taught how to manage my money right. Even as an adult, I wasn't taught. And so if I wasn't taught as a child, it becomes difficult. I want to do better every day. I want to do better. And I'm like, I need to change. These are some things that I need to do. Not that I'm just reckless, but I know I could do a lot better. But that mindset, I ain't going to say the mindset, it's the conditioning of, it's that conditioning piece is deep.
This is what I'm saying. The empowerment and liberation comes when a person decides that that's just not what they want. You will find what you're looking for. Okay, if you want information about it, you can seek that out. Right? We don't live in the 1960s where you got to go to encyclopedias.
No, right. The information is there.
It's there. So this is my angle of it. It's not a disagreement. What I'm saying is to empower yourself. You can't continue to talk about who did what.
Oh, I agree.
Right? And so if I didn't have this, I didn't have this. At some point, you have to become discontent with your space, and because discontent is the seed of change.
And that's exactly what it is, like a crackhead, right? When somebody not gonna say crackhead, that's
not right. Term right
that
there.
Is, I'm not gonna say that. I'm sorry, because I know better. Someone who's struggling with an addiction problem, you could tell them all day long, look, you need to get off drugs. Drugs is bad, but until they get to that point of discomfort, and they hit rock bottom, and then they make that decision to say, I'm going to do this for me, or somebody who smokes. We all know cigarettes cause cancer, but until they get to that point of uncomfortability and make that, that's when that,
That's why the suffix CID,
so I apologize
for
saying
put to death, right? You have not put to death that this lifestyle bothers you, right? So ultimately, we got to ask questions that direct you to behavioral changes, right? Not, the question can't be so open that this is how I am and this is just the way it's been. It's got to be a point to where I say, I don't like this,
100%,
okay, and
sure.
then we move forward, right? That's ultimately what I'm, what I'm
agreed.
Get to.
Yeah, good
well,
conversation.
definitely good conversation. Because again, as we go around the table, this is just such a deep conversation, and it touches people in so many different ways about money and just the lack of information and even the access of information. So the next thing I want us to look at as we're continuing to talk is, so what would be your advice in terms of the first step towards, doing something different? I know we talked about mindset. I know we talked about that. But are there some products, are there some services out there that people can start to utilize to say, once they decide, put to death all of their options, and once they decide that, you know what, I do want a better life. I don't know how to do it, but I know it's something out there better. Where do they start? What's their first step?
I think the first step is acknowledging that you don't know how money works. And that potentially what you have learned might be wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What you learn might
Or
be wrong.
And the reason that's important
Okay.
is a person will never learn something they think they already know.
So true.
Mhm.
That is so
I mean,
true.
I've been in the financial world almost 20 years, and I don't think anything keeps people from success more than that. They think they already know.
Straight up.
And so if you think you already know and you look at your life and you are where you are because of your own best thinking, the first step is that maybe everything I was taught about money was wrong.
Yeah.
And I do believe systematically the information is denied. I mean, that's where I was able to navigate around, because I know at the end of the day, the information that's you're taught is go to school, get good grades, get a job.
All right.
That doesn't necessarily work for most people. But what they don't talk about is really how money works in capitalism.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if we get time on the back end, I mean, I think the real understanding about money is understanding the economic system that the country is built on.
Okay, let's talk about it. We can talk about it on the front end.
So, I mean, when it comes, well, let Brother Mike go ahead and jump in. On that
Mike,
same
you wanna-
question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're actually touching to the conditioning topic again, right? Of what we're taught, and we, like you said, I'm with you that we have to acknowledge. That's the acknowledgement point of it. You know, acknowledging your. It's almost like, what's the best way for you to learn about yourself is learn your history. How can you better learn about yourself and what your future is, and how to not repeat history if you don't learn about your history, right? So I'm with you on that all the way. You said, what's the first step toward understanding money? Yeah, learning. I'm with you all the way on that. Probably examples around you. You know, if you do have examples around you who are successful, getting on their hip and becoming a student of that person, swallowing your pride, whether it's a younger, let's just say it's a cousin who's younger than you. We all have this thing about, you know, almost like deference where the people older you are supposed to have more money or more wisdom, but about the people under you who have
That's
that
true.
knowledge and stuff. How about attaching to them and saying, hey, I know, you know, you're 30 or whatever, you're 20. Even me, I could speak to young men who are maybe 22, 23, who have more going on than I do, and attaching to them and learning from each other. Absolutely is a good start.
That's good. So finding like a mentor.
Yeah, just
Finance
that
mentor.
group, that space, man. Who are you around? Are you around people who party at time? Are you around people who are being progressive? The cup spilleth over. It will spill over. You will start coming upon blessings that you never saw coming when you're just around people. I mean, I've been grabbing my nephew more and more lately, and he's just making more money just because, hey, nephew, I need you to go make this run. Next thing you know, he's in the lingo of real estate. Now when he hears about real estate, or he hears foreclosure, he hears rehab renovation or drywall and stucco, whatever, he knows that information. He just being around the energy is super huge. The energy expands itself. All right, anything you're around, you're going to become.
Now say that again. Anything you are around.
Just anything that you're around,
yeah,
you will
gonna
become.
That's right.
Straight up.
Okay, Andre, you want to tackle that economic system?
Yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, you know, our system works a certain way because it was created to work that way. When you look at again, our people are not we're not disadvantaged from the perspective that we don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, when you look at Harlem and places like this in the 30s, they got it. What they understood was what most people don't get, which is capitalism. Capitalism was built by business owners for the benefit of business owners. Okay, one of the reasons why people struggle is how they earn money. Okay, so I had a guy say, "Man, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, though, right? It's not. That's not how it used to be." In the early 1900s, 95% of the population owned businesses. Only 5% worked for somebody else.
Wow.
Okay, they own their own farms. They own blacksmiths. They controlled their economic outcome.
They control.
Okay, so what changed was And black people understood that. They understood how the system